I love that you bring up the issue of how we should be understanding, the dangers of drug abuse and illicit trafficking. And do you think that the Zambian people are knowledgeable, especially with regards to these dangers of drug abuse and illicit trafficking? Do you think that the knowledge or information has been disseminated quite well, or there is more that needs to be done?
There is more that needs to be done. We have been doing quite a lot in terms of sensitization as a commission. And of course, there are other stakeholders who have also been involved in the fight or in sensitizing people. But there is still a lot to be done. I say so because if you look at the number of people that are still thinking that this is just all about arresting people, it is still quite high. But otherwise, on the other hand, we are glad that the numbers of people that are coming through to seek help because they are dependent on drugs is actually rising, showing that there are a number of people that have continued to be aware of the activities that we are offering as Drug Enforcement Commission in terms of sensitization on the dangers of drug and substance abuse. But I think we still need to do more. You guys in the media are playing a critical role in disseminating such information, and would like to thank you. And please go, just do more so that we can have more people aware of these dangers of drug and substance abuse.
Mr. Kamanga, I'll ask two questions. One, which is the most prevalent drug, or drug of choice rather, in our country, in Zambia? Which one is the most common that you have come across as DEC? And then secondly, what kind of rehabilitation facilities do we have for people who are dependent on drug abuse but want to actually seek help?
Yeah, so the most abused drug, let's start with the legal one, which is alcohol. Of course, we know it is quite abused right across the country. But going into the illegal drugs, of course, cannabis is it's the highest abused drug. Now, the problem that we are having is that there's been an increase in issues of even hard drugs like heroin. Just a few days ago, we announced the arrest of more than 3 kilograms of heroin in Lusaka. Now, that in itself is a lot. And the problem which is there is that you find that even the cannabis itself is being mixed with heroin to make what they are calling volo. And this thing is actually quite rampant. It's quite widespread because people cannot afford to buy heroin by itself in its pure sense. They're tending to buy where there is a mix of cannabis and volo, and it's a little cheaper. And that in itself is a problem that is there. There's been cases, of course, of cocaine, cases of Nsumko, cases of other drugs, but the most widely abused drug is cannabis. And so that is why, even when we are discussing the issue of legalization of the cultivation of cannabis for medicinal and research purposes, I think we need to really think carefully to know how are we going to protect the citizenry from the effects when it is legally being grown by people that have been granted licenses and the like. How are we going to protect the general populace in terms of this particular vice? So we need to really think carefully and be able to be deliberate about the decisions that we make even around this subject.
And then of the rehabilitation centers, where are they available? Because immediately when most people think of rehabilitation, we think of Chainama, but there's obviously specific places tailored for drug abusers.
Yeah, unfortunately, as a country, we do not have a government rehabilitation center. And so what we are offering as DEC is just, some counseling services where somebody comes in and they go home. And of course, we work in partnership with Clinic 6 at UTH, where somebody is dependent on drugs. They are able to assist in detoxing them, and also, of course, Chainama that you mentioned. But if you look at the law, Act 35 of 2021, which is the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, it actually makes it more or less mandatory for government to provide rehabilitation facilities for the citizens. Now, this is yet to be actualized. We've had very good will coming in from the president himself and even from government for the funding of this particular facility, which will go a long way in treating people that are dependent on drugs across the country.
Overall, Mr. Kamanga, I would like to hear from you. How would you describe the fight against drug abuse and illicit trafficking in Zambia? And maybe you could just bring us to light, some of the peculiar cases that the Drug Enforcement Commission has been able to uncover and just rid of, seeing how some of these illegalities are growing within Zambia and have become a trend.
Yeah. So in terms of drug and substance abuse, especially the drug abuse part, you find that most of these drug traffickers are actually targeting the young people. If you look at the numbers of people that we are arresting, most of them are young people who are probably dependent to somebody, who are staying with somebody and the like. And these, when they begin to abuse these drugs, they sometimes tend to become violent and become, they begin to steal so that they can go and exchange whatever they've stolen with drugs, or they can sell those things and make sure that they can afford particular drugs. Now, that in itself is a problem because at the end of it all, we are having an issue where we are destroying the generation that is supposed to take over leadership of this particular country. In terms of drug trafficking, we've had cases of drugs coming in from South Africa and other neighboring countries where they are being brought into the country. Sometimes using these transporters, the buses, something is being sent as a parcel, and that in itself shows that either the ones who are transporting these drugs are probably not aware of what they're carrying, or they may be aware of what they're carrying, and they are just participating in this particular crime. Now, that in itself is a problem because if you look at drug trafficking, it's an offense of strict liability. What that means is that the person with whom it is found, that is the person who is responsible for it. And so in the past, what we've been doing is that when we trace a particular package that has been sent on a bus, we will wait and see who is the absolute owner or who is going to come and collect, and we've been successful in arresting those people. But I think we need to extend it to even arresting the transporters themselves, the conductor and the driver, so that they can also learn to check whatever is being given to them before they can accept to transport a particular package. So there are all these cases that are coming in, all these issues that we've been dealing with as a commission, which we think can be avoided if people are patriotic enough to participate in the fight against drug and substance abuse.